Job. Job 7, chapter 7. All right. Job chapter 7, verse 1. Job's answer to Eliphaz continued. So, there's 8 places in Job where life is quick like a vapor. So in verse number 1 it says, "Is there not an appointed time to man upon the earth? Are not his days also like the days of an hireling?" So, life is a vapor. That's what James talks about. I just read it last night, but in Psalms, David talks about getting 70. That's 70. So I remember when I really got to thinking about that, I think I was 34 or 35, something like that. And I was like, wait a minute, 70, I'm half done with this thing. So I'm on the other side, headed downhill. And so, I don't know. Some people want to live a long time in this world, and, I guess there's good things you would want to stick around for, kids or something like that. But I don't know, to live as Christ and to die as gain, and the other side sure looks good. But anyway, these 8 places where life is quick like a vapor, this verse is one of them. Just hold your place as we run to these. And in verse number 6 of this same chapter, "My days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle and are spent without hope." And from my understanding, the weaver's shuttle is the thing they run back and forth, across, to weave those threads through. What could you like? Looks like a big fishing lure or just a broomstick kind of thing. You just weave it through there and pull it out the other side, and so it's just back and forth, and it just goes across. And there's another piece of string. Then it goes across again, another piece of string. So life just passes by. In that same chapter, in verse number 7, it says, "Oh, remember that my life is wind. Mine eye shall no more see good." I used to work with this guy at Pass Gas a lot, so that verse is probably about him. "Oh, remember that my life is wind." He made an art of it. Every morning he would walk by my table and just raise his leg and rip every morning. That's skill on command. I was impressed, but anyway, that's nothing to do with the verse. "Oh, remember that my life is wind." So wind just comes and it goes. No, it's not him. It's not him. She knows who he is. It just comes and it goes and just passes by. Verse number 9. "As the cloud is consumed and vanisheth away, so he that goeth down to the grave shall come up no more." And probably clouds, you can watch them, and it's just like they're constantly moving and changing, but they're doing it at a rate to where you can't tell it. It's like you have to purpose, this is what it looked like 30 seconds ago, and this is what it looks like now. But the way they change is not so sudden that you can see the movement. It's slow enough to where you can't really tell it, but they're constantly changing. Probably the best example is over there at the steam plant by the lake. You see that steam come up, and I mean, it's just boiling out there sometimes. And you just look just a little ways from it, and it's gone. And that's a lot of steam coming out of there, and it doesn't last very long, and it's gone. That's how our life is. Let's see, the 5th one is, just continue to hold your place, chapter 8, verse number 9. Says, "For we are but of yesterday, and know nothing, because our days upon the earth are a shadow. And as the sun crosses throughout the day, one side of the house has shade. Later, the other side of the house has shade, and the shade is gone. Just like that. We're just here and we're gone. We're of yesterday. Was you born yesterday? Well, that verse kind of insinuates that, you know. But you were here today and gone tomorrow. And it's just how life is. The sixth one. Just continue to hold your place. In chapter 9, verse 25 says, "Now my days are swifter than a post." That'd be like the postman. They flee away. They see no good. The post probably doesn't seem that swift to us today because you order something, it takes forever to get it. But back in the day, you know, you had the best examples like the Pony Express. Those guys were like, I could understand having a job like that. I mean, it's just all you can go all the time, full speed ahead. They would have to change horses every so often because they ran those horses as hard as they could run them because the mail had to get there. And they did that back when we went through the book of Esther. They talked about delivering all those messages on the dromedaries and things. That's how they did it. And they did it as fast as they could because the message has to get out. Well, when the post comes, when the mailman comes by, he stops at the box. He moves on. He just comes and he goes. Life is pretty quick. The seventh one is in chapter 10, verse number 20. "Are not my days few? Cease then, and let me alone, that I may take comfort a little." So he's saying, I don't have many days. How about you just back off a little bit? And I've met a lot of people like that. I would say men. I don't. Definitely maybe more of a man thing. There is just like some of them they don't want to come to church. They don't want to get into the whole trying to live for God, and because when you come to church, it kind of makes you accountable, responsible for things, and there's people there, and you have to interact with those people, and people have problems, and sometimes people's problems affect you, and you don't like it, but we have to learn how to work with those things. And I have problems that affects others, and others have problems that affects me, and I'm responsible. Well, for one, I'm responsible to have a lesson prepared when I'm up here, and I'm responsible to at least try to live a decent life as a member of the church and active in it. And you know, so there's some responsibility that comes. But I've met a lot of people that don't come to church because they just want to be left alone. And they just want to live somewhere where they have no neighbors and nobody's around and just be left alone in peace. That's nice and all, but you can't avoid having people in your life. There's always going to be people around, and it gets pretty lonely pretty quick when you're all by yourself. So at some point you got to bring some people in. But not really nothing to do with what Job's saying here. But he's talking to the Lord. "Are not my days few?" He's like, I'm just here for a little while. My life is short. I only have a few days. And he's saying, just leave me alone that I can have some comfort. And these friends, they don't give him much comfort when they show up. So Job's just like, could you just please just back off? I'm better off alone than having you around as my miserable comforters. Life is too short for these problems. The last one is all the way over in chapter 24. Chapter 24, verse number 24. "They are exalted for a little while, but are gone and brought low. They are taken out of the way as all other, and cut off as the tops of the ears of the corn." Corn grows up pretty fast. It springs up quick to the effect that you can actually hear the corn grow. And it springs up, and then the next thing you know, it's time to cut it down, and it's gone again. And then when fall comes and winter's out there, where's the corn? Can't even tell it was there. There's a little stub sticking up. Then next year, when time comes around, plow it up, and it's dirt. Corn was here, and it's gone just that fast. And it's just out of here. They are exalted for a little while. Corn gets pretty tall. It gets up pretty high, and you can see it from a good distance. And when it grows up, you can't see across the field. It looks almost like some kind of jungle out there. And you can walk into the middle of the cornfield, you can't see nothing around you. It's exalted. It's pretty high up there. And that's how Uh, the the people in this world that have a name, that have some authority, they're exalted in this life. But at some point, they're coming back down from that exalted position. When they do these archaeological finds and they find some tomb or they find some mummy or something, these are very important people buried with all this wealth. At one time, they were up on a high throne. And then where do they find them later? In the dirt, where the rest of us are going, just like the rest of us. And that's the 8 places in Job where life is quick like a vapor. In Psalm chapter 90, verse number 12, it says, "So teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts to wisdom." And why should we do that? Why should we number our days so we apply our hearts to wisdom? So we may know how frail we are, and we may know how short this life is. And when you compare it to it's really no comparison, but when you compare it to eternity, this life is absolutely nothing. It's flying by. It's going to be here and gone. And then what's done in this short little time that we live on this earth affects us for eternity. It affects our station, our what we do, our lives, our maybe reputation. It affects how we are able to serve and glorify God for eternity. All of our decisions we make in this little short life we have on this earth. And when you compare it to eternity, I mean, it amounts to nothing. Its effects will last. Verse number 2, back in Job chapter 7, verse number 2. "As a servant earnestly desireth the shadow, and as an hireling looketh for the reward of his work." So this guy, he's looking for rest in the shade, looking forward to the end of his workday. I used to have to work outdoors. Thank the Lord I don't have to do that anymore, because it was miserable hot. And I lived one summer in Savannah and on an electrician crew. Man, we would have to go to those new neighborhoods, those fresh builds, and pull wire and stuff. And man, there was days when our boss would come out and say, just go find a shady spot and lay down for a while, because it would get so hot. It was miserable. And that's how this guy is. He's just looking for a shadow. He's just looking for some relief from the workday, a little bit of hope, a little bit of rest. And verse number 3, "So am I made to possess months of vanity, and wearisome nights are appointed to me." So the months are vanity because they're vain and they're empty, due to not getting an answer. So Job, he's going through all this. He's seeing all these things happen to him, and he knows he's not doing anything wrong to merit it. So God's doing this to him, and he knows it's God, and he doesn't know why. And he's struggling with this question, this reason, the why, and I we get caught up in it sometimes. We get caught up in why this and why that, and as in this case, sometimes God doesn't want us to know the why. He wants us to exercise faith and just trust him. And no doubt it was hard for Job, and it can be hard on us too. We aren't siding with Job's friends only because we know the why in Job's life. And that's only because we have a Bible. And the only reason we know anything is because we have this Bible. The only reason our pastor can get up and talk about all this stuff is because he can look here in this book, in the scripture, and find the opposing viewpoint against this world. We can't get that anywhere else. We don't have anywhere else to get that. And Job didn't have this book. Job didn't have a Bible to look at and say, this is why this is happening. We can look at it now and say, look, Job, that's why that happened to you. Duh. And, Job is just going through it, and for no apparent reason. Verse number 4. "When I lie down, I say, when shall I arise, and the night be gone? And I am full of tossing to and fro unto the dawning of the day." So Job can't rest. He's just laying there waiting for the sun to come up so he can get out of bed. And me personally, there's only been a couple times in my life where I've ever had trouble sleeping. One time I had I think it was a broken tooth, or something. I don't think it was abscess. It was broke, but man, that thing was hurting, and I was up all night. And the only thing that would keep it from hurting is just to get tap water, put it in my mouth, and hold it. And after it got warmed up so much, it would start hurting again. I spit it out, put another mouthful of water, and I did that all night long. And I was up all night till I was able to go to the dentist. And that's one of the. And one time when I was a kid, I got swimmer's ear, and we were camping. That's miserable enough, when you get hot and you can't rest, but then to be out camping and get swimmer's ear and can't sleep, and you're just laying in the tent all night, just staring by yourself. And another time I was a kid, I get poisoned really bad, poison oak, poison ivy, and I got it. And I remember we were visiting some people in West Virginia, and I don't know if y'all sleep with music. I don't do that, and I can't handle it. But those people slept with music, and I remember being a kid with poison, looking out the window, watching people in the parking lot all night while the radio played in their bedroom real loud. And I don't know how many times I snuck in their bedroom, turned the music down, and it wouldn't be 5 minutes, and they'd have it turned back up. It's like, turn a box fan on or something. It's killing me. But there's times in your life, and those aren't big deals. There's times in your life when you can't sleep. And Job had pain, and Job had loss that just robbed the sleep from a man. And when he gets up in the morning, he's wondering when he can lay down again and get this day over with. He's looking to get through the day. And there in verse number 13 and 14, it says, "When I say my bed shall comfort me, my couch shall ease my complaint, then thou scarest me with dreams and terrifiest me through visions." So Job's looking forward to laying down. Then when he lays down, one, he has insomnia. But it's bad enough the sleep that he does get is worse than the insomnia. When he's lying there trying to sleep, he's wondering when the sun's coming up so that the night will be over. Then when the sun is up, he's wondering when the night comes so the day will be over. There's just no rest, no relief, and no reason why. So lying there at night with his thoughts about his 10 kids, about his miserable health condition, the loss of his wealth, his reputation, the loss of his wife's loyalty, he's got a lot on his mind, and he can't sleep, and he's miserable. There's no rest for him. Verse number 5, "My flesh is clothed with worms and clods of dust. My skin is broken and become loathsome." Those oozing boils are infectious, and Job's just lying in the dirt and sitting in an ash heap. And I don't know that I've ever, maybe homeless people, but rarely ever heard of this happening in the U.S. anytime recent. But the maggots begin to eat the rotten flesh that's on his body, and that's common in other parts of the world. People get hurt, people get infections, and the maggots will eat away the bad flesh and more or less clean it for you. And let's see. We'll skip all this, but I was going to go to Lamentations as Job as a type of the Jew in the tribulation going through this suffering. And it kind of goes along with what's here in verse number 5. And the Antichrist is just going to be putting them through it and just making Israel suffer, similar to what Job's going through, but on a national level and for a 3.5-year period. Chapter number 7 here in Job, verse number 6. "My days are swifter than a weaver's shuttle and are spent without hope." So he's got these days that are flying by and they've got no hope. He's living without a reason, without a purpose. He's living a pointless life with pointless suffering. And that's pretty much how I felt when I was lost. I remember examining things in my mind, just things, doing things or going places or having a job or a family or anything. Why put gas in the car? Where do I need to go? There's no point to it. You put gas in the car to drive where? To a job that I don't want to work, to make money that I don't care to have, because there's no reason for it. There's no point. There's no place to go. There's no final destination that makes this life worth existing. And that's the way I felt as a lost person. And I remember examining that so many times and thinking, there's just no point to anything. There's no purpose. And that's how Job's feeling. He's going through this suffering, and he's looking around. He's like, it would be understandable to be going through this suffering and see no end to it if there was something that merited Job going through this suffering. But he hasn't done anything. He don't even see a reason for the suffering. So it's just pointless. There's no hope. And that's exactly the way I felt as a lost man. Hopeless and pointless, life without purpose. And I remember thinking not long after I got saved, I was just sitting there thinking one day, and it hit me. And I looked at the guy, we called him Brother Larry, and I was like, I do have purpose now. And we got to talking about it, and I explained to him my I guess you could say, dilemma as a lost man, just no purpose to life. And you go places, people that are lost, and then you go places like we saw some, what did we go to the mall for a while back? We went for something. I can't even remember. But for some reason we went there, and we saw some people we knew, and odds are they're lost people, and they're doing the same thing they did when I knew them 20 years ago. They're just going to the store and buying stuff to put on their flesh, to make it look good. And then they go with that stuff, they go to gatherings, and so everybody can see them and that they look good and that they have stuff and that they worked and have money for that stuff. And then Monday comes around, and then they go back to work to get the money, to get the stuff, to make their flesh look good, to go to the gatherings, to show everybody that they have the money, the stuff, and they look good. And it's just like, man, do you never stop and think? Does it never get old? Does it never... I don't know. It would me. It did me. This stuff just gets old. And I was only 20 when I got saved. And it's just like, man, it got tiring very quick. Verse number 7. Oh, remember that my life is wind. Mine eye shall no more see good. Life is short. It is like a vapor and nothing to look forward to from this perspective. Verse number 8. The eye of him that hath seen me shall see me no more. Thine eyes are upon me, and I am not. Much like that corn that comes up and then it's gone. Job, he's just ready to get out. He's ready to die. And there's been times in life, it's like, since I've been saved, it's just like, didn't have this thought as a lost man, too scared of what's after life. But once I've been saved, there's been times it's just like, man, Lord, I'd really like to get out of here. I'd really like to be done with this. Because sometimes life ain't easy. And whether we do it to ourselves or God's doing it to us just to teach us something, life can get tough, very tough. And it's just like, Lord, I'd like to get out of here. But Job had a greater purpose that he didn't know about. God is working on him and doing a thing in him so that one day Job will be on the other end of this test, on the other end of this trial. And man, it's been thousands of years now, and here we are still talking about this guy and how he glorified the Lord in all that he went through, and is almost like a champion of the faith for us to look to as how to go through this life, how to go through the suffering the pastor talked about earlier. Man, and that's going to continue on for eternity. Everybody's going to be like, remember the patience of Job? Everybody's going to be like, there's Job. There's the guy that went through all that and come out on the other side and glorified God through it. And then that's just going to be another reason for the choir to start up again and just praise the Lord because of this one little man, this one little vapor that inhabited a little bitty speck of eternity for just a little while. Verse number 9. As the cloud is consumed and vanisheth away, so he that goeth down to the grave shall come up no more. So there's no reincarnation. And in fact, you can take this verse and just pull it out of context and stand alone, and you can prove the view of the Sadducees over there in the New Testament that believed in no resurrection. In Mark 12:18 it said, Then come unto him, Jesus, the Sadducees, which say there is no resurrection. And this also would agree with evolution. There's no coming back from it. So Job, he's just looking at this thing, and he's like, one day I'm out of here, and I'll just be dead. Some of that Lucas theology. It's like, I'm going to die, and I'll be dead. You ask him, why did you do this? Because I did. Where are you going? Because I'm going over there. I mean, that's just how he thinks. And he's like, why are you hungry? Because I want to eat. Why do you want to eat? Because I'm hungry. You know? And that's just, so there's no point in asking him his reason, because it's pretty simple. Verse number 10. He shall return no more to his house, neither shall his place know him anymore. So like in Ecclesiastes, it's what's done under the sun. And when you leave this life under the sun, you're cut off, and those under the sun know and hear nothing more of you. It's just over. It's just done. And Job isn't speaking like a Sadducee. Job knows there's a resurrection. Hold your place here, and we'll flip to Job chapter number 19 and verses 25 through 27. It says, for I know that my Redeemer liveth, and we've all heard that, and that he shall stand at the latter day upon the earth. So Job's looking for something later. And though after my skin worms destroy this body, so after he dies, yet in my flesh I shall see God, whom I shall see for myself, and mine eyes shall behold and not another, though my reins be consumed within me. So Job's saying this body that I have right now, it's going to die. The worms are going to eat it up. But one day, I'm going to stand in my flesh. So if he's saying that, and he believes that flesh goes to the grave, then he's saying he's going to have another body. And then he's going to see God. How in the world did a man thousands of years ago know that without a Bible? God told him. They just knew things, because God would speak to them, and they didn't have a Bible to prove it. They just had a relationship with the Lord. Wouldn't that be kind of interesting to be that close to the Lord that he just tells you secrets like that? It's like, come here, Job, let me tell you something these other people don't know. And he tells them about the resurrection, and that the Lord will be here on earth one day, and he'll get to see him in his flesh. That's pretty crazy. Let's see. So in chapter 7, Job is not making a doctrinal statement on no life after death and no resurrection. It's spoken of by a man under the sun, looking around under the sun at what's going on down here on this earth, and this temporal, tangible existence of this vaporous life that we live. Verse number 11. We might stop with this one. Therefore, I will not refrain my mouth. I will not speak in the anguish of my spirit. I will complain in the bitterness of my soul. So who can blame Job? You don't know what you might say or what you might charge God with if this was you. If you was walking in his shoes, going through what he's going through. Any thinking normal man or a Christian would think some of these same things. So you can't beat Job up for it, because he's going through an extreme case here. And I've never been bold enough to even in my heart tell God like some of the stuff Job has, because honestly I'm scared of him. And he can do what he wants, and he can say, okay, I'll show you, and he can show me, and it won't be fun. But Job, he's challenging. He's like, I'm already going through it, and I want to know why, and why you're doing this to me. Let's see. We'll go ahead and do 12, verse number 12. Am I a sea or a whale that thou settest a watch over me? So Job, he's saying, I'm just a puny little man. He's nothing big and he's nothing great. And when you think of the sea, man, that thing's huge. I mean, just what we see from the shore is nothing compared to the size of the ocean. And the whale is a monster of a creature. I've never seen one in person, but I've heard people talk about it, how huge they are, and you know how small and frail you feel next to seeing one. But when you spend time in the Bible, You see yourself in a different way. Your flesh wants you to say, why bother? And we probably would if it weren't for the Bible telling us to resist the lust of the flesh, to reckon yourself dead, to mortify the deeds of the flesh. So this book gives you a reason. It gives you a purpose, hope, and shows that you are important to God and what you do matters. So we'll look at the verse again. It says, talking about the well and the sea there, am I a sea or a well that thou settest a watch over me? The Lord at least picked something great, and why pick on little old me? So he's saying, why are you setting a watch over me? I'm nothing. I'm nothing. I'm small. I'm little. Just a little old man, and you're picking on me, Lord. You've chosen me to do this too. You're spending your time just sending this suffering my way. You're spending your time dealing with me. Why even take time out of the day? When we think about the grand scale of God, the universe just spoken with his breath into existence, how big he must be, and that he takes time out to think of us. And not just because he has nothing else better to do, and he's got time to think. No, because he intentionally spends time putting his thoughts toward me and you. And he's that big, and we don't matter. But he cares about each and every one of us to the degree that he would go out of his way to do all this to Job, dangle him in front of the devil, because God was thinking about Job and spending time fondly, affectionately thinking on Job way before the devil came along and started accusing and attacking. He was already God's prized child. You know, look at what he's doing. Look at my boy. Look at him do this. Look at him do that. Look, I'm going to bless him a little more. I'm going to give him some more camels. He's going to have so much, he's going to need some more servants. He's like, I'm going to put him up there in the gate so he can tell everybody else what to do, and they'll come to him for advice because he's doing so well. And God just keeps putting him up higher and putting him up higher, because he's watching every step and detail of Job's life. And he does it to each and every one of us. And it doesn't tax him. It doesn't tire him. It doesn't take anything from him to apply that energy to spending time thinking on us, seeing about us. He put these things in Job's path, and he does it to each and every one of us. He puts a thing in our path. He puts an obstacle. He puts a trial. And why? Just because he cares. Because we're his creation. And he created us for his pleasure, and he wants to spend time interacting with you and me. You know, just spend some time with the Lord. He cares a lot. And if it seems like, in Job's case, like he's just been mean, or he's picking on you, or, you know, he's doing something. In this life, it looks terrible. Like the pastor said this morning, we don't know nothing about suffering in this life, or in this country, or however you want to look at it. But once we get on the other side of it, in this life, and then on the other side of this life in eternity, man, the suffering is going to make so much sense. And I promise you that when we get there, we're going to say, I wish I'd suffered more. I wish I'd gone through some more for him. Because when we get there, we're going to be like little Jobs. And he's going to be able to say, look at this guy. He was my child on earth, and he went through these things. And I put these things on him on purpose, just to make him suffer like my son Jesus Christ suffered, just so he could show the world and glorify me by doing something his flesh didn't want to do in that situation. And he gets to go around for all eternity with each and every one of us and say, look, this one did that. That one did this. And it's not going to be that we did these great mighty things and won all these people to the Lord, which is not a wrong thing. It's definitely the thing you should do. But it's going to be, I on purpose hurt these people and put them through things, and they still trusted me. Though he slay me, I'll still trust him and still serve him. And then it's going to work out even better on the other side, because he cares about us, and we matter enough to him for him to spend time with us. We'll stop there. Lord, we thank you for being